أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله بدين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما وبعد. My dear brothers and my dear sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you know, the topic today is about inheritance, the laws of inheritance. And this is a very, very important subject matter. And all the scholars in Islam are emphasizing the importance of this topic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only revealed 3 verses in the Quran as regarding the laws of inheritance. In Surah An-Nisa. But there are other verses indicating or have a relationship to the verses of inheritance. And we need to understand also other issues relating to the laws of inheritance. This subject matter is a very, very delicate, very technical, very meticulous matter, unlike any subject matter in the religion of Islam, because it deals with numbers and figures, and it deals precisely like mathematics. And Allah has mentioned these fractions in the Quran. He mentioned a half, a quarter, and 1/8. He mentioned 2/3, 1/3, and 1/6. And these are the only 6 fractions that Allah mentioned in the Quran. And for centuries in the past, the Muslim community have been dividing their wealth according to the Sharia, according to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The 3 verses that is mentioned in the Quran is from Surah An-Nisa. And I'd like to read these verses before I go into the actual translation or the actual topic. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل هذه الأنثيين فإن كن نساء فوق 2 فلهن ثلث ما ترك وإن كانت واحدة فلها نصف ولأبويه لكل واحد منهما السدس مما ترك إن كان له ولد فإن لم يكن له ولد وورثه أبواه فلأمه الثلث فإن كان له إخوة فلأمه السدس من بعد وصية يوصي بها أو دين آباؤكم وأولادكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا فريضة من الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما ولكم نصف ما ترك أزواجكم إن لم يكن لهن ولد فإن كان لهن ولد فلكم الربع مما تركنا من بعد وصية يوصين بها أو دين ولهن الربع مما تركتم إن لم يكن لكم ولد فإن كان لكم ولد فلهن الثمن مما تركتم من بعد وصية توصون بها أو دين وإن كان رجل يورث كلالة وامرأة ولو أخ أو أخت فلكل واحد منهما السدس فإن كانوا أكثر من ذلك فهم شركاء في الثلث من بعد وصية يوصى بها أو دين غير مضار وصية من الله والله عليم حليم. وقال جل ثناؤه يستفتونك قل الله يفتيكم في الكلالة إن امرؤ هلك ليس له ولد وله أخت فلها نصف ما ترك وهو يرثها إن لم يكن لها ولد فإن كانت اثنتين فلهما الثلثان مما ترك وإن كانوا إخوة رجالا ونساء فللذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين يبين الله لكم أن تضلوا والله بكل شيء عليم. صدق الله العظيم. The first two verses is verse 11 and 12 from Surah An-Nisa, and the third verse is verse 176 of the same surah. There are other verses that are related to the laws of inheritance, but we don't apply them. Okay, they're just indication. Like the one in Surah Anfal, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And the one in Surah Ahzab, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُهَاجِرِينَ إِلَّا أَن تَفْعَلُوا إِلَى أَوْلِيَائِكُمْ مَعْرُوفًا كَانَ ذَلِكَ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَسْطُورًا. Also, in another verse in Surah An-Nisa, لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ وَكَثُرَ نَصِيبًا مَفْرُوضًا. So one of these three verses, you'll find one in Anfal, one in Ahzab, one in Nisa. They are indication to tell you that for the men, they have a portion to get. And for the women, they have a portion to get. And blood relatives are more preferable to get than non-blood relatives. This is what the verse is telling you about. Because in the early days of Islam, the Muslims used to inherit each other because of strong iman. Until the verses of Revelation for earth came down to say, no, only blood. Now let us look at the meaning of the three verses that I read to you just now in Surah An-Nisa, the verses that deal directly with inheritance. One verse I will read before number 11 and number 12 as an introduction. Verily, those who unjustly eat up the property of orphans, they eat up only fire into their bellies, and they will be burned in the blazing fire. Now the verse of inheritance start. Allah commands you as regards your children inheritance. To the male, a portion equal to that of two females. If there are only daughters, two or more, their share is 2/3 of the inheritance. If only one, her share is half. For parents, a 6th share of inheritance if no children, and the parents are the only heirs, the mother has 1/3. If the deceased left brothers or sisters, the mother has a 6th. The distribution in all cases is after the payment of legacies. He may have bequeathed or debts. You know not which of them, whether your parents or your children, are nearest to you in benefit. These are fixed shares, are ordained by Allah, and Allah is the ever-knower, the all-wise. And in verse 12, in that which your wives leave, your share is a half, if they have no child. But if they leave a child and get a fourth, you get a fourth of that which they leave after the payment of legacies that they may have bequeathed or debts. In that which you leave, your wives' share is a fourth, if you leave no child. But if you leave a child, they get an eighth of that which you leave after payment of legacies that you may have bequeathed or debts. If the man or woman whose inheritance is in question has left neither ascendants or descendants, but has left a brother or a sister, each one of them get a sixth. But if more than two, they share in a third. After payment of legacies, he or she may have bequeathed or debts, so that no loss is caused to anyone. This is a commandment from Allah, and Allah is ever all-knowing, most forbearing. Now these two verses, 11 and 12, are the verses of inheritance. As I told you, there are three. Now just after verse 12 is a little warning. I'd like to read that. These are the limits set by Allah as ordainments as regarding the laws of inheritance. And whosoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will be admitted to gardens under which rivers flow in paradise, to abide therein, and that will be the great success. And whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and transgresses His limits, He will cast him into the fire, to abide therein, and he shall have a disgraceful torment. So it's an immediate warning after verses 11 and 12 for those who don't want to divide their property according to Allah's law. And the other verse, which is far away from these two verses, verse 176, Allah says again, they ask you for a legal verdict, O Muhammad. Say, Allah directs about al-kalala, those who leave neither descendants nor ascendants as heirs. Descendants are children and grandchildren. Ascendants are parents and grandparents. If it is a man that dies leaving a sister but no child, she shall have half the inheritance. If such a decease was a woman who left no child, her brother takes her inheritance, all of it. If there are two sisters, they shall have 2/3 of the inheritance. If there are brothers and sisters, the male will have twice the share of the female. Thus does Allah make clear to you His law, lest you go astray. And Allah is the all-knower of everything. That is actually the last verse in Surah An-Nisa. My dear brothers and my dear sisters, I can assure you, by looking at your faces, even though I read the English translation very slowly, you probably grasp maybe 1 or 2% with all these figures. Who gets 1/8 or 1/4, and if you left brothers or if you left sisters, you know? So we become like nothing is understood. That's quite understandable. We understand that. It's normal. 3 verses of the Quran, there are voluminous work about it, including the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Books in, we call it fara'id, and when you combine them together, they become a stick as all this together. All related to the 3 verses and the hadith, and with explanation and and illustration. So the laws of inheritance is a very, very important matter. And one of the strongest hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about this, and you find it in all the Fara'id book. The laws of inheritance in the Arabic land, we call it mirath, or we call it fara'id, ilm al-fara'id, or ilm al-mirath. And all the books of fara'id probably have, at the beginning of it, they have this beautiful hadith. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تعلموا الفرائض وعلموها الناس فإني امرؤ مقبوض وإن هذا العلم سيقبض وتظهر الفتن حتى يختلف الاثنان في الفريضة فلا يجدان من يفصل بينهما. He said, learn the fara'id and teach it to the people. For I am a person, I will soon die, disappear. And this knowledge will also disappear. And there will be fitna, a lot of problems. Until two persons will differ in the fara'id, in the laws of inheritance. And they will not find anyone who will be able to solve the problem, how to divide the wealth. It will be the first knowledge, according to Islamic Sharia, that will be raised from the earth. The knowledge of fara'id, obliterated from the face of the earth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows the creation and He has made these laws. These are not laws from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, except certain explanation came from him, from the inspiration of Allah. But these are laws that are embedded in stone, carved in stone. We can't change them. And the most famous part of this verse, one of the verses, we have to remember that many scholars of fara'id, they put this down as a heading for their book. آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا فريضة من الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما. Your children, your parents, your children, you don't know which one of them is closer to you in benefit. Whether your parents or whether your children. You don't know that. And this is the farida min Allah. Inna Allah kana aliman hakim. Very Allah is wise and full of knowledge. And I will talk a little bit about that verse. Now before I go a little deeper into this knowledge of fara'id, without exaggeration, if I should have 1 hour class every day, 1 hour session, I need about 50 such sessions to make you have a clear understanding of fara'id. 50. 1 session a day, whether you do it on a daily basis or 2 a week. The main thing is we need 50 sessions for you to have a very clear understanding of this knowledge. And not everybody will be able to grasp it, because as we go deeper, it gets more technical. Especially in the Arab world, things get more complicated because of the family ties and blood ties, and they have a system we don't have in the West. They have a nasab, where a man can get up and tell you, I am the son, I am Abdullah, the son of Muhammad, who is the son of Ahmad, who is the son of Ibrahim, who is the son of Isa, who is the son of Masjid, and they give you a long list, son of so and so and so, till they reach you down to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or around that area, or like Bani Hashim. Today, most of us can only tell maybe the grandfather or the great-grandfather. So when you name, and the way they name their names, not like we, somebody named Ismail Khan. He named his son Muhammad Khan. He named the other one Ibrahim Khan. Have the same last name, family. The Arabs do not name like that, and Islam does not name like that. So if you're a father, your name is Ismail Khan, you name your son a name, and the second name got to be your first name. Like Muhammad, it's a Muhammad Ismail Khan. Muhammad, which literally means the son of Ismail. So this is how the Arab named the name. This is why we know our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his name was Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib. Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, the son of Abdul Muttalib, and the son of, and you go further down, to Bani Hashim. So this is how we call a variable called nasab. So it gets very complicated when you have many children and they have multiple wives. When they marry, you have to bring all of them included, all the children, when somebody dies in the family. Now, let's start this subject matter in a way that you can understand. I see we have many small children, and Ibrahim is the boss there. Ibrahim, you should come sit here, man. Close to me. Yes. Now I expect all the youths, like Shahab, like Imran, around this age group here, I don't expect the children to grasp much, to understand the subject matter. There are three, what you call rukun, arkan, of fara'id. Meaning like how you have fard of salah, many fard of salah. We have fard of Islam. How many fard we have in Islam? How many rukun? It's called rukun, mean a cornerstone. What is the arkan of Islam? Anybody know? 5. Buny al-Islam ala khams. 5 pillars. Cornerstone, or strong roots. That what we call arkan. Or we call it furud. 5. If you miss one, you don't have no Islam. So in this knowledge of mirath, which we call fara'id, there are 3 arkan. If we miss one, we don't need the subject matter. Our problems are solved. Number 1, we have to get the person who died. You don't have the laws of inheritance. How are you going to divide somebody's wealth if the man is alive? See? So somebody has to die. Okay? And we call that person the muwarrith. The muwarrith, it means the one who will give you the wealth, who will make you inherit his wealth. Somebody have to die. Secondly, who can give me the second one? We have to have inheritors. If there's no inheritors, our problem solved. Everything go back to the state. So we have inheritors. The father, the mother, the son, the wife, the daughter, the brother, the sister, uncle, aunt, nephews, grandchildren, grandfather. Oh, too many. So we must have a dead person, and we must have a living inheritor. We call warith. So we have the muwarrith, the one who dies, and we have the warith. And one thing is missing. Who can tell me? Very good. See, you're smart. Wealth. Must have wealth. If the person die a poor man, he has nothing. How are you going to divide? How are you going to divide? Nothing, you have nothing to divide. Okay? So, we have to have wealth. So when these 3 things are in place, then we can start to go about the laws of inheritance. So now we know there are 3 arkan. Okay? So we said arkana is thalatha. The pillars of laws of inheritance are 3. Al-warith, wal-muwarrith, and at-tarika. We call it at-tarika. The wealth that is left behind, we call it at-tarika, or the money that is left to be inherited. Now, we have 3 conditions of inheritance. 3 conditions of inheritance. Means you don't inherit just like that. Like we have a condition of salah. Name me one major condition of salah. When you come and pray salah, one major condition. Wudu. See? Wudu by itself has its own fara'id, its own rules and regulation. That if you miss something, you have no good wudu. You have to complete the wudu. So the wudu now, a salah, the wudu is a condition for your salah. So that is very, very important. All right? So now we're talking about the condition, the shurut. What is the condition? Right? Can anybody name me one? What do you think? Might be a condition? Are you telling me that somebody died? Somebody walked through that door. I want to inherit. Who are you? Who is he? Who is that guy who come in and want to inherit? Tell me. So what do? You verify. the presence of an inheritor. You have to verify that's a condition, that he's an inheritor. Secondly, all of you here living in a palace, and your father is a multimillionaire, and he traveled. You heard the news that the plane crashed, he died. And you start to divide the wealth. Is that correct? What you have to do? Verify the death of that person. To make sure. It could be the wrong flight number crash. Okay? So we have to verify that the inheritor is alive and the person did die, okay? And we left wealth behind. Now, how do you verify the death of the muwarrith, meaning the person who died? You just don't hear the news and verify like that. You actually, if the news is what you call mutawatir, like you probably died in India, you hear it on CNN and you hear it on the other newscast, and they post a photograph, and you get a government certificate, your verification. Or one of you traveled to India to verify, identify the body. Okay? Then, at the time of death, you have to verify that the person have inheritors at the time of death. Because if a man has 10 children, okay, all 10 children alive, but 2 of them sick in the hospital, and this plane crashed and this man died, 8 children will definitely inherit. The 2 in the hospital died. And they are big children. When I say children, I don't mean them. Children. Could be any age. They have wives and they have many children too. They died. They don't get anything if they die before the father. They're out. But suppose after the crash, then they died. See? So they were alive at the time of the death of the muwarrith. They were alive at the time of the death of the man who left all the wealth. That means they inherit. So even if they're alive for a few seconds or minutes, which is verifiable, that our muwarrith in India or maybe in your homeland here, he died at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the son died at 6:30, verify, he get the wealth, like the other 8 children. But because they're dead, now their wife and their children will inherit. So it's very, very important we understand this too. So we have to verify that the inheritor is alive. Secondly, a man may have 8 children, he has a pregnant wife. But it's in the early stage. We have to verify. If she says, like, I'm pregnant, tell the other children, so look, don't rush to the conclusion to divide the wealth. Your brother or your sister is in my belly. They get 2. So you have to wait until they deliver. And if you're in a hurry for their wealth, their inheritance, then the hakim, the judge, will assume how a man, like there are 2 males, to give you the least. And should it be that there's only 1 boy or 1 girl, then they give you the rest later. That's if you're in a hurry. It means you take an advance on your inheritance. So when this child is born, he gets the same thing like you. You understand that? Now, since we verified the first and the second, one other form of verification is the relationship We verify a person died. We verify we have inheritors at the time of his death. Now we got to verify what type of inheritors. Who are you? Oh, I'm the son. Who are you? Oh, I'm the uncle. Who are you? Oh, I'm the grandson. Who are you? Okay, I'm a brother. We got to verify they are inheritors. So we got to say, this is the knowledge of Jihatul Qaraba. What line of relationship? You understand? And it is one of the conditions of inheritance. Now let me stop there. Since now you have the arkan of earth and you have the conditions of earth. 3 conditions. We just verified them. And you have 3 pillars, we call arkan, and we can have this subject matter called inheritance. Now we have 3 reasons. These are not conditions now. We have 3 reasons why we inherit. Somebody died. Somebody shot. Who the community know for a long time. Who has been with his family all the years of their life. Well, we don't know that. And he comes up. Everybody say he must be some strong relative. He take care of the janazah, take care of the dying person, take care of the family, and he wants his share. We got to verify. What claim are you claiming? What is the reason for inheritance? There are only 3 ways you can inherit someone. You got to be either by nikah, or by wala, or by nasab. Nikah means marriage. Through marriage, that's my wife or that's my husband. You inherit. Nasab means your blood tie. Have the same blood. You like you come from a same father or same mother. You share the same blood. Okay, that's my brother, that's my sibling, that's my sister, that's my aunt. Aunt doesn't mean your father, brother, married to a lady, and that's your aunt. Your father, brother is your blood tie. But his wife is not your blood tie. We, because of the culture we belong to, we say auntie. But your father's sister is your blood tie. So we have to learn blood ties now. That we really do not know. We come from a society, everybody we say, Ya Ammi, Ya Khalati, Ya Ammi, Ya Ammati. And it's secondary. You have to know the blood ties. Even the villages in Egypt, they do the same thing. They have respect for the elders, and they call them uncle. We got to verify. Okay? So through nikah, a woman inherits a man inherits a true nikah. And then you have the nasab. Then we have something that we don't have today. It's called wala. Wala is the days of slavery, which we can't say we stop it. It may come back in the future before the end of time. We don't know. So the law is still alive. And what is wala? Wala is, if I'm a rich person and I have many slaves, let's say at the time when slaves are legal, I have them, I own them, and there are conditions how we can get slaves. You just can't go grab a man from his home and bring him because you're say he's my slave. You understand? I enslave him. How you go, like what the British used to do. You go to Africa and grab a whole tribe of Africans and steal their freedom away and call them slaves. You can't do that to a free man. Okay? So there are reasons and why and how people become slaves, like during wars, at wartime. That's different. So we don't want to touch on that. So let's say we have a slave, and I give that slave freedom. Say, you are a free person today. And that slave has no relative. And he, as a free man, earns wealth, earns money, and become rich. When he dies, I can inherit through the system of wala, that I was his master. I'm the only close relative he knows, I being the master. So we don't have it today. But the other way is not true. If I die, he does not inherit me. Okay? So this is what you call asbab, or it's. So the most powerful one is the nikah and the nasab. Now, there are also 3 preventions that can prevent you from inheriting. And you got to know that. So let's recapture before I go into this. We have 3 fard, or 3 rukun of the subject matter called faraid. And we talked about it already, right? The muwarrith, the warith, and the wealth, called the tarika. And we have 3 conditions. Verification of the muwarrith, the death of the muwarrith, and the warith, and also the jihad, the kind of relationship with this person. And then we have the reasons why a person inherits, either by through marriage, or through blood ties, and through wala. Now, there are 3 other things that will prevent you from inheriting. First one we're talking is about homicide. We call it al-qatl. Qatl, wa ikhtilaf ad-din, wa riq. Qatl means you murder somebody. You can't wait until your father dies to inherit. So you secretly arrange for his death. If you are proven guilty by the law, and you're the one who caused his death, you're the one who poisoned him, or you're the one who paid to get him killed, and it's verified, that you don't get a single dollar, not a single cent. Nothing. Nothing. So your wife and children don't get anything too. You're out. And they will eventually kill you. Qisas. Slaughter you. Put to death. Okay, you commit murder. So if you try to murder someone to get your wealth, don't think about it. Okay? You will get caught. Inshallah, okay? And ikhtilaf ad-din, difference of religion. And all this comes from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All these things I'm telling you based on hadith. لا يرث المسلم الكافر ولا الكافر المسلم. A non-Muslim cannot inherit a kafir, and a kafir cannot inherit a Muslim. Okay? A Muslim cannot inherit a kafir, and a kafir cannot inherit a Muslim. So if one of your children happen to become a non-Muslim, and he amass wealth and fortune, you cannot inherit him, or you amass wealth and fortune, he cannot inherit you because of the difference of religion. You understand that? This is very important. Very, very important. So we have a lot of complications in this. And then we come back to another one. What can prevent you from inheriting is slavery, which we call riq, which we don't have today, but we may have in the future again. You don't know. It means if I have a slave, right, who is the brother of this slave, he got many brothers and sisters who are millionaire. And they die. He cannot inherit. The free ones. Neither, well, the slave doesn't have anything. He doesn't own anything. So if you say, my father left so much money, if he inherits, it means the master will take all away. So he's being owned by the master. Whatever he owns, or he bodily flesh, is owned by the master. So a slave does not inherit. So these are the 4 major things we need to understand about inheritance. The 3 conditions, the 3 rukun, or they are called arkan, the 3 reasons, and the 3 preventions. And now, when we take care of all that, we come now to examples for you to get a better understanding that this subject matter, as I said, is a very technical one. And you have to sit with a blackboard and write, because it deals with figures and numbers. This is not a subject matter that we can talk about in lectures except for inspirational purposes, tell you about the importance of inheritance. I can talk to you about it. But the demonstration, illustrations, this is not the place. Inheritance, the laws of inheritance come directly from Allah. And if we are Muslims and we believe in Allah, we are believers, and we don't apply the laws of Allah, it means we are saying, whether we like it or not, that law is not good for me. I'm going to do my own stuff. I don't need Allah's law. So when I make a will, I have a big house, I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. I am going to divide my property equally. I want to be fair to my children. All my 4 children, my 2 boys and my 2 girls, they have equal share. Including my wife. She gets equal share. So my $10 million mansion, each one get $2 million each. That's how you feel. You want to be fair to all of them. You're not being fair. You're not. Number one, you're violating the laws of Allah. You're committing a major sin. And you're telling Allah, you don't know to divide property. I know better than you. It means you're blaspheming Allah. Allah says, I read before, as I said, لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ هَذِي الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. The male gets the share of 2 females. Remember that. The wife gets 1/8 or a quarter. 1/8 if the deceased left children. A quarter if he left no children, then she gets a quarter. So if a man dies and they leave a wife and children, the wife gets 1/8 only of the total property. That's like what happened in New York today or all over the world. When a man dies and he does not leave any will, the wife gets everything. She goes to the court. I'm the legal wife. Everything goes in her name. So look what happens now. She has small children like Ibrahim and Isa, little children, and the millionaire father dies. He left $1 million. The wife, young, 25-year-old, she collects the whole big house in Ozone. The house worth about $1 million. There's $1 million bank account. So the wife collects that in her name. The man left no will. A bum passes by. When I said a bum, handsome young man who doesn't pray, nothing. And he woos the woman. She falls in love with him. He's a total stranger. Come and join the family. Married. Come a husband. A stepfather for the 4 children. Controls the assets. The house and $1 million. And if that woman should die, he gets all. Transferred, I'm talking about the laws of this country. All goes to the new husband who did not work or turn a straw. Now he inherits a mansion, $1 million. And what he does with the children, he can kick them out or put them in foster home. He don't want them. He don't want to tangle with 4 children. He's going to marry a new wife now. No compassion, no pity. So, all because of the mistake of the first man who did not make a will. Or because we do not live in an Islamic country. If you are living in an Islamic country, they will divide your wealth according to Islamic Sharia. This is why we have to make a will, because we live in a non-Islamic country, that we would like our wealth to be divided according to Islamic Sharia. If you only use that term, and you get a lawyer to say, yes, I will according to Islamic Sharia, even if you don't put the details, according to Islamic Sharia, the court will find someone who knows the Islamic Sharia to divide your wealth according to Islamic Sharia. So the wife only gets 1/8. 7/8 belong to the children. So if she wants to get married, she only takes 1/8 with her. to the new husband. The children property secured. So these are important matters that we need to know. That these are Allah's law. And we don't mess around with Allah's law. And we find ourselves with a lot of problems. These are the laws of inheritance. Now let me give you a simple example, very simple example, that you probably apply it. And let's talk about Nizam. How many wives you have? One. How many children you have? 3 children. 1 wife and 3 children. Your father alive? Your mother alive? Your mother alive. Good. Very good example. Here we have a brother, he has $1 million. His mother is alive, and he has a wife and 3 children. No father. His wife will get 1/8 if he dies. If you want to do it according to Islamic law, gets 1/8 of the total property, including liquid cash, including the house, including the farmland, including the goats and the cattle and the sheep and the chicken in the farm. You have to add everything up, what it worth in money, what it worth. And then you start to divide. Your wife gets 1/8. Your children are boys or girls? 2 girls and a boy? Okay. You have to take out 1/8 for the wife. Okay? So let's work with a figure that is easy, that we can work it very easily. As an example, let's say $240,000. That's what you left behind. Your wife gets 1/8. How much is 1/8? $30,000. Okay? Now $240,000. That was the main figure. Your wife gets 1/8, that's 30. A mother, your old 88-year-old mother, she deserves 1/6. So 1/6 of that is 40,000. She gets more than your wife. 1/6 of 240, 40,000. She gets $10,000 more than your wife. The rest of the money is divided. How many girls do you have? And 1 boy? The rest of the money has to be divided into 4 shares. So whatever remains, let's say 400,000, 4 shares. 2 shares go to the boy and 1 share go to each girl. So the girl ends up at 100,000, 100,000, and the boy gets 200,000. Now, when you look at it, things like this, because we live in a sinful country, we live in the West, we look at the non-Islamic law, we cannot compare it with Islamic law. Allah's law is fair and just, but because we don't understand it, we say it's unfair. Why does boy have to get 200,000 and the girl only have to get 100? Why the old sick old lady have to get 40,000, my wife only get 30,000? No. This one, tell you the verse again. آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا فريضة من الله. Same verse, I repeat again. آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا فريضة من الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما. Your parents, your children, you do not know who is closer to you in benefit. You don't know that. That's why you have to work with Allah's law, and then you will see things come clear to you later on. Okay? Now, when we work with Allah's law, even though we don't understand it, we see the very clear fairness that this is a law. Why we give the boy 200,000? The girl who's going to get married soon, she's now 19 or 20, when she marries somebody, maybe a middle-class person, she doesn't have to spend a cent of her $100,000. This is her money from her father. Poor guy died and gone, but the girl left with $100,000. The man has to give the girl mahar, maybe 10,000, maybe 20,000, put her in a home and take care of her, and she still has her $100,000. The boy who has 200,000, when he wants to go get married now, he has to find a home, buy a home. You're lucky to find a home for $100,000. I'm not talking about New York, I'm talking generally. Maybe you find one in Guyana for $50,000 or Florida. Okay? Find a home, then you got to spend to furnish the home and to pay the new wife mahar. So by the time he finished, he left maybe with about $20,000, $30,000. And his sister still has $100,000 plus her mahar. So who gets more? The girl end up with more. She end up with the inheritance of $100,000, a mahar of $15,000, a wonderful husband who is a millionaire in a beautiful house, well furnished. The boy has to work and toil, spend his money on the house and furniture, had to pay mahar, and make the walima, and he left with $5,000. You follow? So don't look at it from this point of view at the beginning when you divide. Allah knows best. It's Allah's law. This is why we need to understand Allah's law. It's fair, more than fair. Why would your 85-year-old mother, what is she going to do with money? She's collecting Social Security. Everything is taken care of her. She got a nurse, medication free, dental free, eyeglasses free, limousine come to pick her up to take her to the doctor. She has an attendant. Her home is subsidized and being paid for by the government. She doesn't need anything. In fact, the money she gets from Social Security, with all the food stamps and everything, is more than enough. She doesn't need it and more money. She doesn't need anything. So why do we have to give her that big sum? This is why many people today, Muslims, when they make their will, they forget their parents. They don't include their old parents, their father and their mother. They concentrate on their wife and children. And they think they're doing a nice thing. That they make a nice will, that my sons get so much, my daughter gets so much. And worst of all, they differentiate between the sons. They give the big son less, and the little one, all, almost all. Why? They say, well, the big son is alive already. He already got a big job. He already got a big house. And this little one here, we don't know what's going to happen after I die. You know, he have to struggle. He should get something. No. This is not Allah's law. Allah's law says all must be equal, whether the child is 1 month old or 80 years old. You give all your children equal. The boys I'm talking about, and the girls. Except that the boy get 2 to 1 compared to the girls. You don't differentiate between the young child and the old child, or whether the child is married or not. Even if your daughter is married and live in a palace, and you have a 6-year-old daughter home, they get the same. That's her sister. When you die, they get the same. Allah's law. Do you understand that? So we don't mess around with Allah's law. Now, come back to the old mother. At the time when you die, Nizam, and you left your wife and your mother and children, remember you have brothers. How many brothers you have? And you have sisters. And all of them poor. All of them poor, struggling hard to pay their rent. No source of good income. They're barely making it meet. Barely making ends meet. So this is the way Allah will enrich them. By you applying Allah's law, your mother now owns 40,000. She takes the 40,000, call her 6 children. You know what, children, they're here. Share this among yourself. 5,000 each, or 6,000 each, or 7,000 each. That's harmony, giving us gift to her children, which is your siblings, who are poor. They have no part of your inheritance, but your mother does. This is how beneficial now your old sick mother become. In this old age, how helpful she come to her children. The transfer of property, legally. Just like the example I gave earlier, when the young wife that inherits a fortune, married a bum, comes in the family, and the wife dies, he gets everything because we don't apply Allah's law. But in this case, when you apply Allah law, your mother or your father, when they are sick or they're old, they still get 1/6 of your property. And if it's two of them, they both get 1/6 each. آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا فريضة من الله. Your parents, your children, you don't know who is closer to you in benefits. You don't know that. And this is a farida from Allah. So the laws of inheritance, Islamic laws of inheritance, even in the times of old, people used to find difficulty in explaining the law and dividing, especially when a man has multiple wives. People believe that each wife gets 1/8. No. If you have 3 or 4 wives, they share in 1/8. So if you have $800,000, $100,000 go to one wife, to all wives. You divide it by 4, they get 25,000 each. Totally, they get 1/8. That's their portion. Now, why is it so different today that many Muslims I've met, and they look at these laws of inheritance, they have a very narrow mind, and they say it's unfair. They look at it very unfair, especially the 2-to-1. The girl gets half as that of the man, or the man gets twice that of the girl, the son. I explained to you before, brothers, this is not unfair. Allah knows what you don't know. But if we apply the law, then you will see for your own selves how things come out very, very clear, very clear. 3 verses of the Quran, and there are numerous hadith pertaining to the laws of inheritance that we need to apply. Now, I mentioned all these things, but there's one thing I left, and I purposely left it for last, because we got to wrap this thing up. Do you just take this wealth that your old father died and gone and start to divide it? Because he put down in the book, I want my inheritance, my wealth to be divided according to Islamic law. So you being the executor now, and you have brothers, you have sisters, you have wife, you have children, and your father died, right? You're going to start share it out according to Islamic law? No. There are a few things you got to look into. Number 1, how much liabilities your father have? Debt. The Prophet never used to pray Salatul Janazah on a person who have debt. He used to ask, does this person owe any debt? And there were times when a person say yes. He says, is there anyone who is willing to pay? And what somebody say yes to take care of that debt, small amount? And then he continued Janazah. You have to pay off your debt. So this comes out from the total estate. What about Monatul Tahjiz? This is what I call funeral expenses. You take the funeral expenses out from the total estate. I'm using a simple example, $1 million. Okay, funeral expense about $50,000, you take that out. He owes about $20,000 in debt, you take that out. Now, can you think of any other expenses we got to take out? Apart from the debt he owes, funeral, what?
Zakat for that year.
What?
Zakat for that year.
No, you don't know that whether he pays zakat or not, unless you're sure. You got to be sure about that. But just with debt we know he owes. Hajj, that's questionable, if you want to do it. If he didn't do it, that's between he and Allah. I'm talking immediate need. He has to pay his debt. Have to pay the funeral expense. There's a thing called legacy. Okay? Very important. The legacy is what a will that you make, that you have your driver have been driving you for the last 40 years. You have your gardener take care of all your plants and all your mango trees, and they're being very honest and sincere, dedicated to you. I said, after my death, I'd like to leave $20,000 for this one, $40,000 for this one. That's called a legacy. You have to honor that legacy, but there are conditions for that. It must not exceed a certain amount. Anybody knows? MashaAllah. How did you know that? Tell me where you learned it from.
I learned before.
Huh?
I learned it before.
You learned before. From where? Huh? Don't remember? MashaAllah. Anyway, I've said it in this masjid many times. In fact, one of my khutbahs was based on that too. 1/3. You cannot exceed 1/3. And this comes from the hadith of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. When he was sick and dying, he had only one daughter. And he sent for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Oh Messenger of Allah, just see me, I'm dying. I have lots of wealth. I only have one daughter. Can I will away like 2/3 of my property?" The Prophet said, "No." "Can I give away half?" The Prophet said, "No." "Can I give away 1/3? The Prophet hesitated. He said, "Athuluthu, wa thuluthu kathir." He said, "Okay, 1/3, but 1/3 is too much." But he said 1/3, but he said it's too much. So the ulama use that hadith, very strong hadith in Bukhari, and they make that the limit. You cannot exceed 1/3, but they know it's plenty. So if you want to go below the 1/3, be much better. You understand that to mean that? Much better to go below. And he gives the reasons why. For you to leave your inheritors rich, much better than leaving them begging on the road. Rich, very rich. That's your wealth. And these are from your descendants. Okay? So this is the hadith we have to work with. So you find out how much wealth your father wants to give away, and you have to cut it down. If it exceeds 1/3, you have to reduce it proportionately. Like if the man was supposed to be 20 and the other was supposed to be 10, and it turns out to be like about 40%, 1/3 is our 23%, right? It's going to be 40%, but no. You cut it down like 18 and 6 or 18 and 8, like that, proportionately. And you give them, so that's all. You don't have to bother. You don't have to see your will. You got to execute the will and fear Allah not to exceed 1/3. And you give it to them. Because the 2/3 more is for the inheritors. There are 25 categories of inheritors. Like you get father, mother, brother, son, daughter, wife, nephew, nieces, grandchildren, like that. Grandmother, grandfather. You have 25 categories. But one of them has to die to leave inheritors. So who is that one person? Now, if the father dies, who does the father leave? Who does the father leave if the father dies? The father can't leave a mother. Because all relationship is to the dead. So if your father dies, who's your mother to him? His wife. So coming back to square one, the person who have to die is the spouse. Always. So one spouse is missing. So when you add the names of inheritors, and you say father, mother, you put wife, you put husband, one got to go. Either the husband go or the wife go. And then you list the rest. So from the 25, only 24 can inherit. But none of these 24 can inherit at any one time. Some inheritors are more powerful than some. So I'd like you to know today who are the most powerful of inheritors. And there are only 5. And if you know that, anybody else that come to you for a share of inheritors, you know what you can do with them, right? Number 1, under no circumstances can you leave out your father or your mother or your spouse. I use the word spouse in case you're a man, you leave a wife, or if you're a wife, you leave a man. Under no circumstances can you ever leave out your father, your mother, your spouse, your daughter, and your son. These 5 must inherit you. Nobody else can. In the presence of these 5, they are the most powerful of inheritors. And among the 5 of them, the most powerful in terms of strength, ulul usbah, Among these five, guess who? Huh? A good guessing, that's guessing. It's the son. The son. You see, the father gets a certain portion. It's called Ashab al-Faraid. 1/6. That's why when we go on the blackboard and we demonstrate with an example, you will see the power of the son. So, what happened? After the father takes 1/6 and the mother takes 1/6, the rest of the property between the girls and the boy. The wife gets 1/8. And the rest is between the son and the daughter. So always the son comes out on top. Ulul Usba. He takes the rest. You give out who you have to give out, and he takes the rest. So the son is the strongest of all inheritors among those who can inherit at any one time. Okay? So I would like to bring this to a close now, to give you some chance, you get some questions to ask. Okay, because we're coming close to Salat al-Maghrib. So we're going to give you about 10 minutes. Any quick questions? Who first? Okay.
You mentioned that you have to verify the death of the Muwarrith. What happens if that can't be verified? Is there a period that you wait? For example, on September 11th, we had people who died. Bodies were never recovered. There was no proof.
Okay. Very good. Very good question.
Time that you need to wait in that case.
Very good question. The brother asked a question here that is very, very valid. In fact, this actually happened. I don't want to go too much into it, Ian, because it's very technical. I'll just give you a brush off like that. When you verify, as I said, you can send somebody to physically identify the body, or you hear it on CNN. But if you can't find the body, and the person went, let's say, to fight the war in Iraq.
Earthquake. It's easy.
Huh?
If some earthquake,
Please?
zilzal.
Zilzal. Mr. Hada. You went to fight the war in Iraq, where there's a lot of bombing going on, and so many soldiers that they don't know who. They can't identify them, right? Or you have a zilzal, as the brother say, an earthquake, where you can't recover bodies. Those time minutes you wait for a very short time. Here, technicality. But when a person go on a journey that is safe, and years pass, you have no news, no telephone call, no nothing, no letter, no nothing, nobody is seen. Some ulama tell you got to wait up to 7 years. Some say up to 4 years. So we don't want to get into that. Long time. Especially Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi. It's a long time. There was a case, as I say, you're in the topic, where a man was absent for a long time, and the wife was waiting. And the wife complained to the judge, I don't know where my husband is. So many years pass, nobody knows about him. So they give talaq, what you call this, dissolution in marriage, dissolve the marriage. Marriage was dissolved, and she was free to marry somebody else, by the hakim, by the judge. This man showed up sometime after. Yeah. And you know what is the law? He ordered that man to divorce that woman. She had to wait for the iddah to go back to the husband. It was a unique case. But things like this do happen. If the inheritors, you have to divide the property as soon as possible. If the inheritors call for that, you have to divide. If there's nothing to stop you, to impede you, right? Prevent you. No court case or no nothing. It should be divided as soon as possible. This is the rule, the law. This is the right of the inheritors. You don't prolong it and wait for years and months and months and months. No. If the children are small, you appoint somebody to look after their affairs. Like a wife and young children, you advise them, look, stay in the family home until the children get big. You don't start dividing the family home. The children are small. Till the children get a certain age, and the wife's still alive, because she lives in the house, she used the wealth and she survived. When they get big, then the children want to go by themselves, say, Mom, I want my share. Then, that case. Islamically, a sister sent a question, yes, I think so. Islamically, a woman has the right to own her own property. Does her will have to be according to the same pattern as that of the husband? Yes, sister. If you own your own property, just like the man, your will have to be, according to Islamic law, same pattern as the husband. Okay? But there's something else I want to bring your attention to. Especially in America where we live today, it's not like long ago where the man owns the house and looks after the wife and feed the wife and can divorce her and chase her out whenever he wants. And he gets wanted. Today, houses are owned by husband and wife. So it's down the middle, half and half. So when a man dies, you don't divide the whole house to the father and the mother and children. You got to take out her half share first. So if the house is worth, like say, $600,000, $300,000 in the house is hers. So you only look after $300,000 of the man that his children get, including the wife. The wife will get now 1/8 of that $300,000. You understand that? Guys, they're equally owned. So but when you be careful with that today, don't try to cheat your wives. Okay? Any other question?
Are there any other inheritors other than the 5 you mentioned? Or can they be?
Oh yeah. I told you, when these 5 are present, nobody else can inherit. But there are times a sister inherit, a brother inherit, an uncle. They have different kinds of uncle. You know, you have an uncle who is from your father's brother, from the same parents, and you have a half an uncle, come from your father's side. The two of them only share a father. A brother can inherit, a nephew can inherit, a niece can inherit, a grandfather can inherit, a grandmother can inherit. There are 25 categories of inheritors. And at times, each one is inherit when somebody is not around. But when the 5 are there, nobody else can inherit. And yes. Okay, as I said, the son. You see, you have to bring the scenario to me now. The son being the strongest. If the deceased left no father, no mother, right? No, you say son. No wife. He died. He doesn't leave a father. He doesn't leave a mother. He doesn't leave no daughter. He doesn't leave no wife. He left a son. But he left many other relatives. The son takes all. The son takes all. If he left a grandfather, the grandfather takes the place of the father.
What if it's only a daughter?
Huh?
Only a daughter. Only a daughter that's left.
The daughter. Oh, if they left a daughter, if you leave only a daughter, she gets 2/3. Half. It's in the Quran, yeah. The daughter gets a half, and other relatives get accordingly. If there are 2 sisters, they share in 2/3. 2 sisters, they share in 2/3, and other relatives get. She only gets 2/3 if there's no brother. And the hadith of that, لا يرث المسلم الكافر ولا الكافر المسلم. A non-Muslim cannot inherit a Muslim, and a Muslim cannot inherit a non-Muslim, a kafir.
If you die and your mother is a non-believer,
She doesn't get anything. No. But in this world, while you're alive, you got to be nice and kind to her. We have many. We have many Muslims I know today have non-Muslim parents. Like a man marry a Hindu lady, and she also changed his faith and become from Muslim to Hindu to please the woman. And they have Muslim children who go to madrasa, and they're Muslim. Neighbor cannot inherit. Your best friend cannot inherit you. Your neighbor cannot inherit you. Your longtime buddy cannot inherit you. They get from legacy. You make a will for them. That's called a legacy. You can make a legacy for anybody that is a Muslim. Even to an organization. I want the Masjid to get so much. You know, I want the school to get so much. Right? I want this family to get so much. 1/3 is the maximum. Friends do not inherit friends. Neighbors do not inherit. You may have the best of neighbors, better than some of your own relatives, who will inherit you, but the neighbors can't inherit. What about the legacy for a non-Muslim, like an organization or somebody, like, as I said, your driver? And most of the ulama say is okay. Most of the scholars, they said it's not inheritance. It's a legacy. Here, like you have a driver who has been with you, he's a non-Muslim, dedicated to you, he's a poor man. You leave a legacy for him, you understand? It's okay. That is not inheritance. In fact, while you're alive, you can take $10,000 and give it to him. It's okay. If she dies, well, the house belongs to two of you.
Yes.
If she dies, her half is in question,
Right.
not your half.
Not your half. And she's entitled of 1/8 from your half.
No, she dies. She's not entitled to nothing. She dies.
No, but
Your wife dies, you said.
your wife died.
Well, if she dies, she can.
She's in half.
Her property now, the half of the house, because it's in your name too,
Right.
both spouses' name. So when she dies, her half of the property is in question now.
Right. So she does not inherit an 8 from your half.
She died. She died. She can't inherit. She died.
Yes.
She's gone. She died.
I understand that she died.
If she died, you inherit the husband.
Right. But the inheritors for her does not have a right to claim a 1/8 on your property.
No. 1/8 is only for the wife.
Right.
Only the wife gets 1/8. Only the wife. Nobody else gets 1/8.
If he died,
It's a fraction used only for the wife. If let's talk about let's say you and your wife, right? You and your wife. If your wife dies, the house belongs to you and your wife. So if you have half in the house, she owns the other half. So if she dies, right? Who are the inheritors? You are number one inheritor. You're a husband. You get a quarter. You get a quarter of her property. A husband gets twice that of a wife. You can either get a half or a quarter, and she will get either 1/4 or 1/8. That is if children involved. If she does not leave children, you get a quarter. Sorry, you get a half. And if you die and she doesn't get 1/8 anymore. She gets a quarter when there's no children involved. Okay?
Well, I'm saying to you.
But I know now the other half now, or the other half, out of that probably if wife dies, you get half out of her half share. And the rest go to her relatives according to who they are.
Okay. I'm talking.
Okay, very good question. A stepchild does not inherit. This is why when you do this subject matter, you need to know the names of the categories of all the inheritors. Once you know that, it will not include stepchild or stepfather or stepmother. It will not include neighbors and friends. You know, you get grandfather, father, mother, sister, brother. That's why you need to know who are the 25 people. When you know that, the rest are not included. Okay? And we have them, inshallah. And you got to memorize them, and you know them. And if you know it in a sequence, it's so easy to memorize. I think there are about 11 males and 14 females. And you can know them easily. So once you don't come in that category, then you do not inherit. So you got to provide for your stepchild. Means if you marry a woman who have 4 children or 5 children, and you left plenty property behind, they don't get anything from you. Just the wife gets. Your children get from your own loins, but the stepchildren don't get anything. They're supposed to get from their parents. You can give the legacy. Or while you're alive, you can. By the way, while you're alive, before you die, your wealth is yours. But when you die, it's not yours. It's for your inheritors. This is why when you spend of your wealth while you're alive, you have the freedom to give away all your wealth. You can take your wealth and share it out and give to whomever you want, how much you want. This is not inheritance. This is a gift. This is a practical subject matter, which you need to have a blackboard, and you have to write. You can never learn, this topic by just listening all the time. You have to apply. It's a practical subject matter. It's like engineering. I can teach you engineering on paper, but when you go out in the estate and go out in the factories, you got to apply. It's a practical job. How to apply it. Same thing with the subject matter. Same thing with salah. A person teaches you to make salah, tell you all the rules, but how do you make the ruku? You ought to show you how to do it. how to make the ruku, how to make the sujood, how to make the salam, how to stand. Fara'id calls for calculation. You have to have a mathematical mind, how to calculate and how to divide. Sometimes when you do this kind of work, when you do this kind of distribution, you find that you have too many people and less money. So what do? Oh, it happens. There are ways and means how to do it legally. Surpluses in fractions, in people. Everybody takes a loss. Okay? Okay. I just want to bring this session to an end. Subhanaka rabbi hamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق